Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez. Just a reminder as we get going that all the meetings we cover are available to watch online. Check out our video archives at town.barnstable.ma.us. The Planning Board last night held a public hearing on a proposal to change the sign code as it pertains to businesses on and around Main Street in Hyannis. The proposal was prompted by Main Street business owners who, over the past month, have expressed concerns that their ability to attract foot traffic will suffer under the restrictiveness of the current sign code, which until recently had not been rigorously enforced. Here, Planning Board Chair Felicia Penn gives a little more background on how the proposed amendments were developed.
What you have attached as the item for consideration for Town Council is generally representative of a meeting that was held on April 23rd, shortly after our Planning Board discussion that we had with many members here. At that time, there were much information from the past was at the table, as well as the current comments and all the work that was done there. And what we tried to do was represent the majority of the concerns, and we think that the current article amendment to zoning, although it's not perfect, is done in the spirit of progress, and is rather responsive to many of your concerns.
Of the many changes the sign code amendment proposes, the most discussed was one that deals with A-frame signs on the sidewalk, which are prohibited by the current sign code. When the hearing began, the amendment allowed for the signs, but only for businesses that are set back at least 10 feet from their neighbors. However, Attorney David Lawler, whose office is on Main Street, suggested a different approach, arguing that the setback requirement won't help businesses right on the street that deal with awnings, trees, and patios that block their storefronts.
The great thing about Main Street and other streets like it, if you want to look at Newbury Street or whatnot, and also a bit of a bane, is the fact that they evolved into this kind of wonderful mixture that it is. Nothing was planned way back when in the 1800s or whatnot when it started, and even before then. And because of that, we have irregular shapes and buildings and whatnot that create issues. And the reason that really I'm here and what I'm advocating for is the hardship provision. And Amanda summed it up nicely, but I think if this board could agree upon language that where there's an obstruction of a substantial sight line to a sign from either major access point on the street, east or west side of the street, that a store owner can come before this board and seek relief. I think that there's a lot of concerns about things getting out of hand and having some continuity and having appropriate signs for that street. And I believe that any applicant will have to go through a dual process to make sure that they can get that. And I think the first process would be before this board, where they would have to show that there's a substantial obstruction. And that if they're able to meet the burdens of a special permit, then they would have to go before historic and meet their requirements with respect to a sign. So the proposed amended language, I think, provides a dual benefit.
Lawler's request was supported by all the business owners who spoke at the hearing, including Mike Lyons, owner of Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream on Main Street. Lyons told the board that even though his storefront is not set back, the view of it is obstructed on both sides.
As we fixed the downtown, one of the things that changed was the sight lines. So if you look from the east side down towards my shop, what's happened is that we had light poles, signal poles, and trees. And the tree is beautiful. The two trees on the corner are beautiful, and they have they're completely, perfectly covering my sign. And beautifully, by the way. And so what happens is, and there's no way, if you're coming down that way from the east side, there's really no way to know that you're where I am until you're directly in front of me. And I'm an impulse item, so they need to know where I am. And they'll just keep going. On the On the west side, it has to do with awnings and outside dining. I mean, outside dining's been a great addition to downtown, but it doesn't change the fact that when you come out of the alley between Alberto's and Mrs. Mitchell's, when you come out and you say, "Where's Ben and Jerry's?" If you look that way, we're not there, and you can't see up, and it's just the way things work. So the A-frame, we had an A-frame a long time ago. We put the A-frame back out, and we had immediate response from it.
Later, as the planning board got into discussions about tweaking the amendment to eliminate the setback requirement, board member Matthew Teague voiced his concern that without a single rule to govern what constitutes a hardship, the board could be inundated with requests to grant special permits for the signs.
What I was saying was that if we eliminate the 10-foot or 5-foot or some prescriptive setback and use the term substantial hardship, demonstration of substantial hardship, that would afford everyone, as demonstrated by my recollection of Main Street and the pictures presented tonight, would afford everyone almost the chance to come in and apply for a special permit under the current way this is written, ask for a special permit for one of these business location hardship signs. I don't think that's the intent of what we're trying to achieve here. I think, and I think it's a slippery slope down to clogging the board's time with a very a very pertinent issue, because clearly there's a concern out there for it. However, we have zoning in place that says if your sign blocks somebody else's sign, it is prohibited. Okay, that's not an easy issue to deal with either, but I think we're getting dragged down to, dusting off means of enforcement or the methods by which enforcement's been conducted over the last several years, and now we're trying to unravel a very, very convoluted streetscape when it comes to signage. I mean, every single business, depending on the camera angle, depending on how big the tree is, where the person is standing and taking the picture, you could come in and demonstrate that your sign cannot be seen.
I tend to disagree with Matt in that these people are in business and they really need to get that fact out in front somehow. I think this whole issue is going to add a lot of work to this board, no matter what we come up with, and with a solution. But I think partially that's why we're here. And I would like to see the 10-foot setback taken out and come up with an acceptable wording that would at least allow us the opportunity to control the amount of A-frames that we end up permitting. But I do think that the 10-foot setback is probably something that's going to be a problem, and I think we should eliminate it.
Ultimately, Paul Curley's opinion was in the majority, with the board voting to change the amendment to allow all downtown Hyannis business owners to make their case for an A-frame sign permit before the board. The sign code amendment now goes to the town council for final approval. Time now to take a look at this week's remaining meetings.
At 7 p.m., the school committee meets in the town hall hearing room. Also at 7 o'clock, the Waterways Committee meets in the Selectmen's Conference Room. Wednesday, May 26th at 7 p.m., the Zoning Board of Appeals meets in the Town Hall hearing room. At 7 o'clock, Old Kings Highway meets in the West Barnstable Community Building. On Thursday, May 27th at 9 a.m., Site Plan Review meets in the Town Hall hearing room.
Well, that's all for now. I'm Nick Cortez, and we'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.